The time clock is set, so I think we're good. Welcome to TooLost panel presentation on financing your career and future, alternative funding options for the independent artists. I'm your moderator, Emily White, host of the world's #1 music business podcast, How to Build a Sustainable Music Career and Collect All Revenue Streams, based on my Amazon #1 best-selling book of the same name. This is my publicist, Matthew. I'm also the founder of I Voted, which built the largest digital concert in history, all to increase voter turnout, and we'll be returning to in-person shows in 2024, so stay tuned. In the meantime, artists have more options than ever to fund their career, create new revenue streams, and manage their cash without relinquishing control and ownership of their recording rights. But all of these new options and revenue streams can absolutely be overwhelming. So let's break down these tools that benefit artists so artists are taken care of financially and can prioritize focusing on art, music, and life. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna let my esteemed panelists introduce themselves. We'll start and name their company. We'll start with Matthew and go down the line here.
Hello, I am Matthew Tilley, Head of Artist and Industry Development at beatBread.
Hello, my name's Connor. I'm Head of Deal Operations at TooLost.
Hey, I'm Evan Heby. I run industry and partner marketing at Tipalti.
Hey, Shav here, and I'm CEO of Indify.
Love it. So let's break down who's in the audience. Who here is a label or distributor? Great. Do we have any managers? Awesome. Any artists? Maybe one up front here. Okay, cool. Any categories I missed? PR. Yeah, PR. Fiona's an amazing publicist. Love it. Okay, great. So if you are an artist or someone that supports artists, Matthew, what is beatBread and how are you guys funding artists?
Great question, Emily. I always like to tell people what we're not, first of all. So we're not a label or a distributor, and we don't offer any services at all. We are purely a funding platform. We currently offer funding against streaming revenue. We're going to add publishing revenue as a product in the coming months, but currently we use data science and a lot of data science. We have 10 full-time data scientists. We run an algorithm that looks at your history and compares you to the hundreds of thousands of other artists in our database, and we make a prediction about what you're going to earn in the coming years and give you the choice of getting your income now, basically, against a 1, a 2, a 3, a 5, or an 8-year term, with lots of other choices as well, but that's the short version.
That's really exciting about publishing coming soon. So I would say sign up for your email list to be in the loop on that.
Be the first to know.
Yeah,
yes.
That's great. And do artists own their rights their recording rights when working with beatBread?
Yeah, absolutely. So we think ownership is really important. And I think it's a theme in the world of artists at the moment, right? That ownership is becoming more and more important. So we don't actually take any ownership position at all. We're actually, the legal contract says we're buying your income for a period of time. So you maintain ownership and control of the master throughout.
I love that. And what are examples of how artists are utilizing beatBread's funding?
I mean, I'm only going to talk about that a little bit, Emily, because we don't put any stipulations on how they spend the money. But we've seen one artist fulfill his dream of moving to Nashville, where he only got, I think, a $5,000 advance, but that was enough for him to pack up his job and move to Nashville. We've seen people fund tours. We've seen people make videos. We've seen people spend money on recordings. We've seen people promote their careers. Actually, had one guy bought a house. So it was a decent, chunky advance, but he was like, I can't take my statements from my distributor into the bank and get a mortgage against them, but I can get a beatBread advance. So that was what he did.
Love it. Just a couple more things, and we'll move on. We're going to focus on.
Yeah, it's not all about me.
Yeah, each great company, but what you guys do is so unique. So, what threshold do artists need to meet to work with beatBread?
Yeah, so our algorithm will produce a result at about $80 to $100 a month in streaming income. Now, I know if you're a brand new artist, that seems like a huge hill to climb, right? But there are actually tens of thousands of artists making that much money. So hopefully it's not too high a bar to entry. It equates to about 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, give or take. So that's sort of where we'll start.
That's great. I love it. Okay, so we are going to move on to Indify. So Shav, you're an artist also, so you can deeply empathize with what artists need to thrive and succeed. Tell us about Indify and how artists can apply for funding with your platform.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I'm an artist, and that's really driven, I think, the ethos of the company to date. I came up with Indify to want to help artists just like myself. I go by Pretty Boy Shav. You can check me out on streaming. I was in the show Ginny in Georgia recently, which I'm very proud of. And yeah, I mean, I think what Indify is a platform where artists who have some sort of traction can raise funding from strategic investors who add value to their careers and allow them to build their careers while owning it. And Indify.io is where you can apply and where artists and managers alike can submit their artists for approval to the platform.
Amazing. And you guys are using the power of data to source artists, which is something I think the industry needs to deeply pay attention to for a variety of reasons. What are some success stories of artists utilizing Indify to fund their careers?
Yeah, well, some context. Like I mentioned, I've been an artist my whole life. And, growing up, I started to get involved in the music industry. I interned at Warner Music in the digital strategy and biz dev department, where I saw that streaming was going to be the future. I then interned at a company called Savin, which is like the Spotify of India, where there's a ton of rich information, data inside of the platform. I was product managing, basically designing dashboards for the team. And so I started to, and this is, early on, 2015, I started to see that there's a ton of these digital services that are going to be the future of the business. And there's a ton of information inside of these services. And I was like, so how are, we grow up and we see Atlantic Records and Columbia Records and Interscope Records and these major labels. And I'm like, so how are these massive labels with $100 million budgets, billions of dollars being spent on finding, signing, breaking artists, finding these artists? And I go in and I meet with some A&Rs and they show me this list of artists on a spreadsheet, which at the time was how they were tracking social and streaming metrics. And it was like 27 artists on this list. And I'm like, how are you finding these artists? And they're like, through these blogs in 2015. And I'm like, those are written by like 15, 16-year-old kids. And so I was like, it's one thing to believe you should blow up as an artist. It's another thing to be actually blowing up and still not getting those opportunities. So that's what created Indify V1, which was a platform for record labels to identify talent and basically be on this tool that tracked and ranked over 200,000 artists. And it became the core discovery tool for the music industry. Most major labels subscribed. We ended up identifying Khalid at 17 years old, Billie Eilish at 13 years old, Post Malone in 2015, SoundCloud rap, and it even got to the point as a genre, and it got to the point where it started to create bidding wars. So that was kind of like V1 of Indify. But what we realized is, these deals are built in a certain way that aren't necessarily there to support artists and help them own their careers. And so that's where kind of Indify V2 came about. And what's been so exciting, the second part of your question was success stories, right? Or what's been so exciting is since launching V2, which is rather than an identification tool for the old industry, an investment marketplace that's equitable, digital, transparent as part of a new industry, artists who've raised funding from investors on the platform have been streamed over 4.1 billion times. They've reached stages like Jimmy Kimmel. They've charted on Billboard. They've been on Today's Top Hits, and they've done so all independently. And one artist, Anise, actually had a top 10 album in the country, is selling out 3K cap venues across the country. And he had a #1 record in the Philippines. His artist name is Anise, and he's been building with us for the last, I think, his last album, including the releases before that, and has really, most importantly, seen that growth in his career because of the partners on Indify.
I love that. I think as an industry, we need to pay attention to the data with regard to what fans are actually listening to, engaging with. I mean, I'm all for, traditional A&R and artist development, but instead of what we think they might be listening to. And not to go off on a tangent, but it also cuts through a lot of sexism and racism when you look at the data and you see a lot of diverse artists. So what kind of... what are examples of categories of investors at Indify? Who are these folks?
Yeah, I think, like you said, because I think that was a really important point, V1 of Indify, the goal was to democratize discovery and give artists a more fair shot, no matter where they're from or who they are, to be seen, heard, and backed. I think V2, what I realized, from finding the best artists in the world early, we were also finding the people who were actually moving the needle, who were equally important. And the craziest thing is those people were not inside the major label system. In fact, artists would sign to these majors. They would pay $100K for these digital campaigns to amplify TikTok, Instagram, YouTube to folks who are outside the industry. And then those folks would, take their $50K off the top, pay the influencers, they take their $40K off the top, and no one actually cares about the marketing of the record. And this is what's become, I think, a lot of today's deals. At Indify, we identified those top partners, most of the top partners on Indify that we rank. We came from a world of ranking artists. Now we rank the investors, and artists should be ranking their partners and asking who can actually drive the most value for me. The top 5 to 10 are these top digital marketers in the business who do the marketing for the top labels and top artists in the world. So what was important to us is that when you're doing a deal, you need to be getting more value out of that deal than what you're giving up. I think even distro deals can be dangerous and predatory. If you're not getting the value to increase your career, that can be a danger to you and your wallet. I think at the end of the day, for us, what we're really proud of is a majority of these deals have already become profitable, meaning these artists are participating in their equity portion of their deal. And some of them have hit returns where, we've seen a single song make over $500,000 in less than a year, and the artist keep the majority of that. So these are exciting things that I think show a new path in the industry. We're actually going to be publishing some of the earnings, but I think the key to your question is investors that know how to add value. And so far, we've focused on strategic, really, marketers and managers that can add value in that way through DSP pitching and digital marketing. But we're also exploring kind of influencer partnerships that, if you know Alexis Ohanian, the Reddit founder, he actually backed an artist, Leah Kate, on the platform, and now he has a gold plaque from amplifying her story. So that's kind of the two cohorts right now. I would say it's like, music industry operators, managers, professionals who know how to actually add value. And then we're starting to play with kind of the influencer celebrity circles as well.
Amazing. And Alexis is also Mr. Serena Williams, not that he isn't super legit in his own right. You talked about how distribution deals can actually be predatory. Is it okay to say that as an artist, you're going to be working with TooLost and maybe share why you're choosing them as obviously someone who's doing something awesome?
Yeah, I think, I think we're big fans of TooLost and work with them. A lot of our investors have shared that, TooLost can distribute artists to like a wide array of stores that internationally that other distributors don't. And I think that's a big reason that we're a fan. And I think additionally, I think the team is really incredible. So for us, like working with TooLost is easy. We work on top of a few different distros, but TooLost is one that we're more deeply integrated with. And it's been an amazing partnership so far. I'm actually putting my next record out through TooLost. So
love it. Let's
go.
Nothing,
that's exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. No more genuine endorsement than that. A couple more things to learn about Indify, and then we will move on to TooLost. Can artists turn down an investor if they don't feel like they're aligned?
Definitely. I mean, I think one of the most exciting things about Indify, and it's probably it's probably partly a reason because I'm an artist, is it's designed completely for artists, and it's an artist-first platform. I mean, the way the flow works is artists come on, just like founders. We always say artists are founders. They can create an ask for what they're raising, what their share is. Then, very simply, they receive offers on the platforms, like just in their inbox, like buttons sending out the terms of the amount of capital, the percentages, the releases, and the term length. And as long as the offers are 50% or more ownership and creative control in favor of the artist, those are like limitations of the platform, not even just principles. Like you can't even, I've tried to do it and made sure that you can't do it. It'll be like, and yeah, it's up to the artist. I think one of the most exciting things about it is it sort of streamlines, like, especially for an artist who's doing really well, like bidding wars. Like I've seen an artist get 10 offers, get on the phone, start to talk to them, and then just pick the partner that's best for them. But it's insane to me that you are deciding this information on Instagram DMs and like Instagram mutuals. Like that's the state of today's music industry. It's 2023 and we're like using DMs to like choose who we sign to. It's an insane thing because like music people aren't even really on LinkedIn. So it's like there's no data. For us, you can see exactly who these investors ranked or have backed, ranked against each other, and then see how many streams and catalog that they have. It's like we have more information about like where we get tacos and like who we sign to, which is like, think about that's real. Like so that's going to change, and I obviously I think at Indify we want to be a part of that change.
Love it. And last question, as we're focusing on you, and then we'll move on. What kind of traits are Indify investors looking for in artists?
Yeah, well, I think the reality is like when you sign to a label, they're just going to tell you to start posting on TikTok, right? Like we all know the meme, right? But the reality is like, yes, like as much as we can debate if it's a good thing or bad thing till the end of the
Shav, wait, are you saying that major labels are not good at artist development?
You said it. You said it, Matt.
I didn't. I was asking you. You said it.
Yeah,
This is a major label alum, so this is not
Yeah.
like
We used to be.
talking out of nowhere.
myself included. Yeah, the elephant in the room was just thrown out there.
Yeah, well, we gotta address it. You know, it's like there's the hilarious things. There's TikToks made about that. So I'm not the first to bring it up, but yeah, like the reality is, it's not just like the right thing to do for these artists to own 70 or 80%. It's deserved, right? Like artists are driving their own careers. Individuals and social media and individuals' accounts. Again, we can debate that till the end of the time. But the reality is short form content is driving music's growth. I've never seen an artist go from 10,000 streams to 1.5 million streams in 2 weeks. That used to take 5 years. Now I've seen it on Indify multiple times because of short form content. So I think as an artist, what we look for in our artists and what I would recommend is like, you know, there's the meme of like, and I'm even exploring it as an artist myself. It's like, hey, like, you know, listen to my song, or like you're in your car singing along. It's like, now that's a meme. So things are going to move forward. Just like YouTube was like a vlogger platform, short form is going to become about just a platform, right? Like it's not going to be, you're a TikToker, you're just going to be on TikTok making art. And so I'd say focus on your story, focus on your why, get your, build a visual world because it's as important. And I think creative direction partners will become a thing that matches your music. And I think what we look for in that long-winded explanation to your question is artists who are really just building themselves and who believe in themselves and are taking shots and putting things out there that build a visual world. And once that starts to resonate is when those investors can become valuable. So if an artist is, you know, streaming 10,000 streams a day, if an artist has some UGC growth, if an artist is consistently building an audience and has engagement, those are the things that we look for because it's what we've seen in the past has been effective in terms of the investors being able to add value. And that's always the goal.
And one last quick thing, artists own their rights in working with Indify?
Yeah, no, there's no ownership deals, so all deals are licenses, and they always own 50% of the royalty after the initial advance is paid back or more.
Fabulous. And any artist can apply to beatBread or Indify, correct? I know there's thresholds, but
Yes.
Yeah,
beatBread.com, people.
love it.
and we're indify.io.
Fantastic. Okay, so you have your funding through beatBread or Indify. Now it's time to record and distribute. Connor, tell us about TooLost and what sets you guys apart from other distributors and aggregators to support artists.
All right. We are a new subscription-based music distributor. We service over 250,000 artists and labels, and we currently represent over 5 million songs. Just to get some data out there for everybody. What sets us apart is definitely the technology, the user interface, everything from when the artist first visits our site to upload music, to the back end, the operational systems, distributing the music out, collecting all of the royalties and income streaming on the back end, access to your reports, and also direct access to our entire operational team in terms of any support, questions, changes. I think something that happens a lot with musicians is wanting to change things at the last second. So artists love to do that. So they've got a song coming out on Friday, and they will email us at 2 in the morning on Wednesday, going into Thursday, and want to change the entire album, the cover, all of the songs, and we can do that without leaving the artist in tears and kicking and screaming. So, and that's thanks to our technology as well as just our team. We're a young team, like I said, a newly formed company, but we're growing really, really rapidly. And I think in a very innovative way.
And in an ideal world, though, how far in advance should artists be uploading their music so it can do its thing?
Ideally, we like a month because we want to be able to ingest all of the music to the DSPs, get it out. I am biased because it's my company, but I think we have the best, we call it label services, even though we're a distributor, but our relationship with all of the DSPs, I think, is the best in the world. We're extremely hands-on with our artists, and we are not biased to size either. So whether the artist has 10,000 monthly listeners or we have artists that, I can't always name names, but have over 15 to 20 million monthly listeners, we prioritize. And something Shav mentioned that I thought was really interesting was an artist in today's scape can go from 10,000 monthly listeners to 1.5 million monthly listeners in the drop of a pen or a hat. Something that we really try to do is to make sure that when that happens, they also don't fall back down, which is something that I think we're seeing a lot in today's music scape. We have a lot of artists that go viral for a week, and then the systems turn, and it's the next artist, and we really like to pay attention and to create leverage and longevity for our artists as well.
That's great. And is TooLost open to all artists, labels, and catalogs?
Yes.
Love to hear it. So again, you can apply for funding at beatBread, you can apply for funding at Indify, and then you can go and distribute with TooLost and work with their fantastic team, which has great label services and technology. Okay, so last but not least, Evan, for those that don't know, what is Tipalti?
Yeah, so Tipalti is a payments platform that we're really invested in making payments to artists, royalty payments, distributions a lot easier and a lot simpler. Love that Connor was talking about the technology because that's what we really put first. Tipalti is actually a Hebrew word, which means I handled it. So what we set out to do is handle payments across many industries, but music and royalties being one that we're really invested in and trying to grow. And like Connor mentioned, the technology is super important. You're hearing from Indify about their technology, beatBread about their technology. That's what we're here to do. We're here to be a support system to make the music industry a little clearer, more compliant, less barriers to entry, and make it easier for artists to get paid on time, accurately, every time. And TooLost has, invited us to join the panel because they know great technology, and they decided to work with us to help make those artist payments and those payments to creators, producers, whomever it might be, a lot simpler and a lot cleaner.
Love it. So you guys are a fintech company with clients across industries. Tell us how you're working within our sector of music.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'll speak a little bit to my role specifically, and what I do is industry and partner marketing. So we're looking for the right partners in the right industries that we can make a huge impact on. We know that music and royalties is a great space for us because there's so much behind the curtain, if you will, in terms of what an artist is owed. What does 10 million streams really mean? Does that mean $100? Does it mean $200? We hope it means way more than that. So really getting more clarity on what that means for the artist and giving the distribution companies like TooLost, like some of our other clients like Create Music Group, like the MLC, like DistroKid, giving them the tools that they can use to really be able to have that transparency with their artists is something that's been missing from the industry for a really long time. And that's something that we want to, help influence. And we serve businesses like TooLost, but really the people that we care about are the artists and the creators that are going to be benefiting from that. So we're obviously trying to sell to folks like Connor and his team and other distribution companies. But really our end goal is to make that process a lot easier and a lot simpler for the artists so that they know, hey, I don't have to worry about the payments that I'm getting. I know that they're coming. I know that they're going to be on time. I don't have to check it a million times over and over again. And I know that it's going to be a great way for me to work with this certain distributor. And that's the value we provide to the business as well. Maintain your artists on your platform. Make it so that they don't want to work with anybody else, because what they're getting, the experience that they're getting with you, especially from the payment side, is really, really easy and really, really simple. And it doesn't, it's not a huge challenge to understand how much you're owed and when it's coming.
I love it. And I know you have quite a few clients in music, but I believe you also work with Symphonic and AudioMac.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. You did your research, Emily. So yeah, those are a couple other of our clients in music. So Symphonic is another distribution company, AudioMac kind of a growing type of streaming service as well. So yeah, we work across the industry. The easiest way to think of it is if you got lots of people to pay and you don't know how to handle all of them, Tipalti will handle it for you. So that's one thing that we do. That's really our bread and butter is kind of the mass payments side of things. But as many of you can imagine, or if you're thinking about your business specifically, hey, I got a ton of invoices I need to pay, whether it's an invoice just for office supplies and stuff like that. So the non-sexier side of stuff we can help handle too. I like to I've been working in this accounting and finance and enterprise resource planning world for a really long time, and all of that stuff is really important. And I think specifically in music, compliance is a huge thing, and that's one of the biggest reasons why companies like TooLost are choosing us, because we handle all of that from A to Z for you. The compliance, the tax forms, the filing, all those types of things makes your life a lot easier. So you can focus on building your platform and making it better for the creators and the artists that are on it.
And you're primarily like a B2B company working
Absolutely.
with labels, distributors.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely, no two ways about it. We're absolutely a B2B company, but we really have the creators, artists, and others that we would be serving in mind. I think the one example I like to say, just to kind of make it click for everybody, is Twitch is one of our biggest clients. And so every single streamer on Twitch gets paid through Tipalti. I bet you can ask, many of you probably have friends that are streamers on Twitch. They have no idea who Tipalti is. And that's the way we like it. We want to put our brands at the forefront, and we want to, to use kind of a term that we use often is we provide a white labeled platform for them. So it's Tipalti sits in the background. You put your brand up front. So it really just looks like, there's no disconnect. You're getting paid by TooLost, and, at the very bottom, it might say powered by Tipalti, but it's not something that we like to, take any credit for. We just like to kind of be that background tool that's facilitating, making your life easier. We're a licensed money transmitter and can transact in, 190 plus countries and territories across the world. So it's really, really easy for us to, it's not easy, but it's something that we've worked really hard at, making the compliance core to our platform so that we know when we're working with specific brands and we know we're working with their businesses that they won't have to worry about that at all, and that'll be our problem, and we'll make sure that everything that we're doing, we're providing a nice compliance service for them.
That's so great. And B2B is business to business for those that don't know. So what's next for Tipalti in the music space?
Yeah, so really, honestly, we're just starting to dip our toe into the music space, and I think that's, just to give a little bit more around the origin story, and some of you might relate to this if you worked in this world before, where our kind of mass payment solution was derived from was really in the ad tech world, where, you have ad tech companies that are placing ads all across hundreds, if not thousands of publishers, and you get 1 million clicks or whatever on your ad or whatever it may be. What does that business owe you? We're kind of getting to that place. I mean, that's always been there in music, but that's really what we're trying to solve for as well, is like, like I said, what does 10 million streams mean? What does that equate to? Giving you kind of more insight into those numbers, and then making it really clear that, when you get your check, those 10 million streams equal to, $10,000, $100,000, whatever it might be. So the clarity around, what you're getting owed from a distributor is something from a product perspective we're trying to do make a little bit cleaner and clearer. We have partnerships with companies like Curve to help you really understand how those royalties work out. And then, from the overall music and royalty side, we're starting to make partnerships with companies like some of you may read DMN, Digital Music News, and might be subscribers to that. We're starting to make partnerships with companies like those to give some helpful tips, like tell the story of our Create Music group. They're really, they could be what TooLost is in a couple of years, or DistroKid. Tell the stories of those businesses, how they got there, and then give some advice on, here's what helped these companies get to the place that they're in. And then honestly, we're just trying to get our names out there, trying to work with more companies. I see some other folks at A2IM that have worked with us or considering working with us. But really in the music space, we're trying to get our name out there and start to influence. And then I think the partnerships thing is huge because there's so much complexity when it comes to making royalty payments. We're not always going to be the best place to make those calculations happen. You might need a third-party system to feed data into us. We have a very open API architecture. I won't get too deep into some of the technical stuff, but making the partnerships with the companies that the distributors and the other businesses are using so that they can be most informed. Maybe it's Indify one day where they're really telling us, 10 million streams means X number of dollars, and that gets fed into Tipalti, and that payment happens very, very quickly and easily. So those are some of the things we're looking at: expanding our partnerships, working with the right royalties companies, making those calculations, and then really getting our name out there through the right media channels and trying to give topical advice that helps people to improve their businesses.
Fantastic. You guys are definitely doing that. So Matthew, can you share a little bit more on how beatBread works? Because I think, or kind of the options for artists, because I think the tool on your website is really cool to play around with.
Yeah, absolutely. So you come to the website, you put an email address and an artist name, and within about 20 minutes, we're going to be able to show you some estimates. And they're always estimates until you've uploaded your reports. But the main three choices that we give, the first one is, do you want funding against just your catalog or against new releases as well? Then we give you a choice of how long the term's going to be, and you can choose 1, 2, 3, 5, or 8 years. And then we give you a choice of whether you want to keep some of your income during the term. So if you're using your streaming income to pay your rent or buy your groceries, we don't have to take all of it. We can just take a percentage of it, and you get to decide what percentage we take. And depending on when you move those sliders around on the website, it's a little hard to describe, but there's a website and there's a bunch of sliders, and you'll see in real time the actual numbers change and update. If you see something you like, you upload your reports, and within a couple of days, we'll actually change that screen to, instead of saying estimates, it'll say confirmed offers on it, and you can move those sliders around again. There's actually over 200 combinations of deal that you can take. You find the one you like, they're all confirmed offers, and you're normally funded in a week or so.
Wow, amazing. And what are the ranges of funding that you guys are giving out?
From $1,000 is sort of the lowest we'll do. So if you're making, as I said, the bottom end is about $100 a month. If you're making $100 a month, you can maybe get, $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 advance, obviously, because we're only advancing against the income that we can see in the next 5 or 8 years. And we did our first $2 million advance a couple of weeks ago, and we can actually fund up to $3 million currently. We also have an investor network, so if artists on the larger side think that they want more money or that our algorithm's not valuing them well enough, we can actually take them to our investor network, which is a collection of distributors and high net worth individuals who will actually bid on fractions of the deal. Now, our own capital will make up sort of the balance of what the investors don't pick up, so it's not one of those things that sits there for months and months waiting for the deal to close. But we do have an option to get you even more money than we're offering if that's something that's interesting.
Great. And Connor, why is supporting artists important to you? What's your background that led, to TooLost?
Yeah. Well, my background is I started at Universal, so I was in the major label system right out of school, USC graduate, and then started as the first executive assistant to the president of one of the major labels. So I call it like getting thrown right into the fire and seeing the way everything worked. For an artist, but also from label services to marketing to everything in between. And it just gave me a full kind of scope and passion for the way the industry was and where I wanted it to go. I also, obviously during the 7 years at Universal, became very close with a lot of artists, a lot of managers, developed really great relationships and sort of saw where the hardships were. And then combined with this whole technological revolution that we've all woken up every day and experienced, started piecing together ideas for where the industry was going to go and how that would be better for artists. So that really kind of lit a fire in me as well as my colleagues, and TooLost was formed from there.
Fabulous. So now we're going to turn it around to you all. We have a few minutes for questions if anyone would like to ask our esteemed panelists anything. I don't know if we have an audience mic. If not, you can... Okay, by the podium. Oh, great. I can't see it, but I assume it's there. So any questions? Yeah, come on up, introduce yourself.
Hey, what's going on? My name is Nice on the Sonics. I'm an audio engineer. I'm a senior engineer at Platinum Sound Studios under Jerry Wonder. I have a lot of clientele, a lot of clients who were signed to major labels who are now independent, and a lot of artists who are just independent in general, just looking for funding. Wanted to know how important virality was for like your calculations as far as like how much to fund.
Virality, did you say?
Yeah, virality, like something going viral, like a
Yeah,
post
totally.
getting a lot of exposure or some type of exposure situation. Where,
Great.
you know, is that a part of the calculation process in any type of way?
So we look at lots and lots of data. If it's very recent virality, it's really hard to put a value on it, right? Because I think Shav and maybe Connor also made the point about sustaining, right? If virality lifts you and then you find ways to stay there, that's fantastic. But if the virality goes up and comes back down again, that's actually almost a bad sign, right? If you got tons of exposure, suddenly you were everywhere, and you didn't pick up more actual engaged fans from that, I'd say that's almost worse. So virality is amazing if it produces sustained growth.
Yeah,
Would be my answer. But Shav, you may have a different view.
No, I think the beauty of this panel, honestly, I've been loved listening, is like we all sit at different parts of this independent artist stack. Yep. And I think beatBread provides an important solution to artists who are in a different position. I think for us, there's like two type of outcomes we see on Indify, I would say. It's like there's a viral outcome and there's like the steady outcome. And the dream is for an artist to be building steadily, have viral moments that then, like you said, Matt, continue that artist building steadily. So I will say, like, you know, if there is some sort of virality, especially like with a sound on UGC in terms of UGC growth, like people, like fans are making videos to this sound, that's something that Indify investors are very good at taking and growing. And so they look a lot, and that's a lot of the Indify investors, I think, have just good ethical values. They want to invest in stuff that they can add value to. So a lot of that ability to create sustained growth from a viral moment, you know, they actually, I think, do a good job. So I would say it's like 50-50. Like if there's a viral moment, it's definitely going to help you get partners interested because they're going to know that they can amplify it. But at the same time, I think what partners are looking for, honestly, and I've noticed more of a trend in this in the last sort of like 6 months, and I think this is true across any label entity, is I think partners are looking for sustained growth and engagement with an audience. I think ultimately that's been like the age-old thesis of artists in different forms since the dawn of time. But I think today, now more than ever, I think a lot of investors or backers of artists are just looking for artists that are active and artists that are have an engaged audience, and that can be at different scales. Yeah.
Amazing. Question? Yeah, come on up.
I was just curious.
That's okay. Can you come up to the mic?
Form an orderly queue.
Yes.
I was just curious on beatBread. I mean, how are you guys making a profit? You're basically loaning money to artists? Is that the idea?
So you could use that word. We can't use that word because for two reasons: for legal reasons, and secondly, it's not actually a loan. So the legal agreement is we're purchasing your income in advance. Every deal, when I was talking about you move those sliders around, you'll also see every time you move the slider what we call the recoupment rate changes. And the recoupment rate is exactly the same as a royalty rate would be in a record deal. It describes the amount of money that we're keeping versus the amount of money that's going towards recouping your advance. So just for example, on a 1-year deal, we're probably keeping 10% of the money and 90% of the money is going towards paying back the advance. So if you want to try and think of it as interest, which it's not, on a 1-year deal, it would be about a 10% interest rate, right? And then you go to longer deals, and there's more risk, and there's more time value of money, and all of those things. The rate will go down or up depending which way you look at it. But yeah, we're taking a share of your income. So one of my favorite things to say to artists is, if you don't need this money, please don't take a deal from us, right? Money costs money, and you're giving up something to get this. And it has happened once or twice. If the only reason you're taking the money is to get a stack of bills to take pictures on Instagram, it's probably not your best business decision. So.
Yeah, and we mentioned this at Music Biz too. That's also a safety issue. You know, if like you're showing all your bling on Instagram, like people literally get robbed and murdered for that kind of thing. So, you know, be smart about what you're doing out there. And I know your scale slides, but like roughly what is the recoupment percent? Because I find it very reasonable.
It totally varies on the deal. I mean, like I said, a 1-year deal is normally about 90-10 deal. A 2-year deal is like an 80-20. A 3 years more like a 70-30. And a 5 or an 8 is going to be in the 60-40-ish range.
Totally. Great.
I had a quick follow-up question to
Sure.
Indify, if that's
Yeah.
okay. What kind of who are your investors? Like, what kind of companies or individuals are investing? And is Indify solely for artists, or can like independent, let's say an event company or whatever, be part of that too and want to,
Yeah, I think Indify is solely like a marketplace, just to address that one first, between artists who have some sort of traction and strategic investment partners that are like vetted and allowed onto the platform. They also have their own thresholds that we kind of look at. So I would say specifically, I think we focus on those two sides. But as far as the investors, I mean, I'm happy to name them again. Like, we're pretty open and transparent. Like, the number one investor on the platform right now, who's produced over 1.2 billion streams in catalog, is Thrice Cooked. I think it's Thrice Cooked Media. If you Google it, I think it'll come up, and they'll have a lot of their investments on their page. He also manages, or that group also manages Pink Sweats and Kirby, those two artists. Kirby, of which has done deals on Indify. Actually, both of them have done deals on Indify. Pink was actually our first one ever. It was like a test thing, and it went platinum, so it was a good test. And yeah, like a couple others are ATG. They're number 2, and they just crossed 1 billion streams in catalog on the platform. And number 3 is Black 17. And yeah, all three are you know, they're not only like partners with artists, but all three of them are actually like digital agencies as well that do marketing for. They're the ones who everybody pays to do the digital marketing. So that's what we've found is valuable, because in this day and age, right, like there's no more like calls to radio or MTV. These are the folks who can actually move the needle.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. I think we had another question over there. Yeah.
Chris Mendez from Pixelinks. I'm curious if maybe some of you guys can share, how are you adapting to Web3 technologies and, you know, revenue that's being generated on chain or advancements on chain, anything like that?
No, you go.
No, I was going to say we probably could have a whole panel on that.
Yeah, right. You go ahead first.
Now, honestly, just quickly from our side, we built AI into our platform from kind of the get-go, and that's something that we're going to continue to build into the platform. So just make it super easy for you when you need to make payments to creators, to artists. If you're paying someone, the same rate on a quarter-over-quarter basis, then the platform will suggest maybe you owe this person $1,000 this month. So things like that are just making it, from an AI perspective, a little bit more easy to use, but also from a Web3 perspective, our second biggest client is Roblox. So having companies like that on platform that are, really paving the way for what the future of Web3 and what the future of, the entire metaverse is going to look like. And that's something that we just, we try to take off their plate all the boring finance, and don't tell our CEO I said that, but all the boring finance stuff so that they can focus on, making the creative and cool things. And they do it compliantly, and then they don't get any problems with anybody, and we can manage that for them. But over to you, Shav.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely like, I have a lot of friends in the Web3 space. I was deep in that community. I'm a member of a bunch of DAOs, and I really like what I fell in love with was I think there's like a mission element that was like lost in the speculative element. Like Web3 is about community and community governance, community ownership, and I think those are principles that are really exciting. I think at the same time, when it comes to streaming, a lot of the narrative was, oh, streaming's going to be displaced by Web3. And I just think that's simply untrue. You know, there's so many people who use these streaming platforms. There's so many ties to all the catalog owners. Streaming is going to continue to grow, and I think all the models have shared that. And for an institution like us to, or you know, project like us to use Web3 would just be adding more complexity, because as long as those streaming services, Spotify, Apple, you know, name the biggest ones out there, aren't paying in kind of that infrastructure, then it is actually just creating more complexity. At the same time, I think there's a massive opportunity for superfan monetization, superfan perks, clubs, and superfan like sort of representation, such that as long as the technology has real utility to it, I think that can create a new revenue stream. And when Web3 is a good infrastructure for it, that could be as big as streaming. I don't think it's done well yet. I think some of the projects that came out weren't focused enough on that utility. It was my criticism. So that's just how I see the space. But
couldn't have said it better, Shav. Yeah, it's certainly fascinating. I think potentially huge income streams for artists. But right now, most artists are making, I think, like certainly against their recorded music, 98% of their revenue from the streaming platforms. And so that's what we look at right now.
Love it. Well, that's a wrap for financing your career and future. Thanks so much for attending.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.